So on June 1st, 2022, I remember seeing exactly negative $50 in my bank account. And back then, the biggest thing that I wanted was just to break free, live my dream life, just like all these people that I saw online, living these cool lifestyles. But I couldn't figure it out. I was frustrated, I was stressed, probably like you are right now. Now, fast forward about 3 years later, I'm 22 years old and I make over $20,000 per month in profit as a high ticket closer, working just a couple of hours per day. And here's the thing, if I knew what I know now back then, I would have been here in under a year. So today I'm going to share with you my realistic and brutally honest story with all of my mistakes, everything that I've learned, so you can skip the years and the thousands of dollars that I had to spend in mistakes, in courses to learn all this stuff. I'm just going to give it all to you within the next couple of minutes. And this all starts off with me. Ever since I was a young kid, I always knew that I wanted to take a different path. When I was 10, 15, even 17 years old when I was in school, I could never see myself taking a traditional 9-to-5 path, going into a job, commuting back and forth. I always knew deep down I was going to do something else, but I didn't know what that actually was. My parents did traditional 9-to-5s, and I didn't really see a clear path of what I was going to do. I just knew I wanted to do something different. I had this voice inside of me that I couldn't just live average life. That was and still to this day, it's my biggest fear, is living an average existence. What I started doing within the last couple of years of school, I started trying different online businesses, affiliate marketing, drop shipping, trading, an agency, all the typical stuff. I started buying some courses, some mentorships, trying to figure it out, kind of half-assed it to be honest in the beginning. I didn't really go all into it because I was kind of scared to just commit fully to something. So I dabbled in a dropshipping store, did some affiliate marketing, and I made some money. I made $100, $200 from doing that. And eventually got into an actual agency, so a social media marketing agency, and really tried to commit to making that work. Invested into my first higher ticket coaching program, which was at the time about $3,000 to learn how to start my own agency. And I thought that was going to be the end all be all. So I went all in on the agency. I had absolutely zero idea what I was doing. I was focusing on my morning routine and all these wrong things. And I was jumping from niche to niche in my agency all the time, all over the place basically. Didn't really understand the agency model and things like that. And I did that for almost 2 years. And I made some money doing it, yeah. But the thing is, it was so complex. There was okay, I had to get clients. I was doing cold calls and cold outreach to get clients booked on my calendar, and then eventually have sales calls. I was trying to learn how to actually handle objections and how to run proper sales calls. Then once I actually closed a client, I had to figure out how I'm going to get results for the clients. It was super complex, super overwhelming, And that's why I jumped from thing to thing to thing, because I couldn't figure out the business model. And eventually what happened is I realized I looked at the agency model, I was okay, what do I like about this model? What is the thing that I enjoy doing with the agency? And it was very clear, it was sales, I closed a bunch of clients. I like just talking with people, having sales calls and closing prospects. But I couldn't get results for people. I couldn't actually deliver a service for people. And what started happening is when I was running the agency, I was still living with my parents, So I started getting to a point where they wanted me to go into university because I had finished high school at this point, while I was still running my agency, not making any money from the agency whatsoever, literally going negative every single month. I was running out of savings. And obviously my parents wanted me to figure stuff out. They were either you go into 9-to-5 or you start studying. You can't just be here, live in our house and just not make money and do this business that's not really working out. That's what they told me. And I was yeah, that kind of makes sense. I need to actually figure this out, start making money from this business, or else I'll have to do something else. And obviously that was the worst thing that I could even imagine, going into university and studying some random thing that I didn't see myself doing, or going into 9-to-5. So I had a lot of pressure at the time to figure my shit out, Agency wasn't working. I felt like I had to shift, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to shift or not. But eventually I got on a sales call with a guy that I had networked with through agency program. He told me that he was basically just working as a high ticket sales rep. I didn't really know what that was at the time. So he kind of explained it to me. Basically what it is that you work as a salesperson for an agency or an online high ticket coach or online consultant. So you're basically the salesperson for an online business selling a high ticket coaching program, product and things like that. I got on the call with him and he was yeah, I did the same thing. I used to have my own agency, made $50K a month, didn't like it. It was super stressing, super overwhelmed with it. So I went from that into just being a sales rep for someone else. Now I make $20K a month in actual profit, and I'm able to have freedom, travel, and only do the fun stuff. That's what he told me on the call. And I was like, this is what I want to do. This is the perfect thing. You know, I can literally just do something I'm already like pretty good at, something I already like doing, have freedom, make my first $10,000 a month in actual profit, be able to travel, and sounds like a faster and simpler path to get there, just doing one thing versus building an entire business, you know, learning sales versus learning sales, marketing, fulfillment, building a team is obviously way easier to do. So that's kind of when things clicked for me, and I realized like, shit, this is something I can do. And at the same time, I was getting tight on my like savings. I didn't have a lot of money saved up, you know. And that's why I went into like the negative. I was like said in the beginning, I went literally down to negative $50 to my name. That's like all I had at that time. And I was like, shit, I need to figure this out. So I decided to actually drop my agency at the time and go all in on sales. And that was a big decision because I had been running the agency for over, like at that point, around 2 years. So I had poured a lot of time, energy, focus into that. And I just made a shift, you know. I went all in on sales. I felt like that was the better path for me to take, to like learn a fundamental skill. I thought about it for a couple of weeks and I was like, yeah, if I just pick this path of learning a fundamental skill like sales, I go and work for an online business, that's probably going to give me the capital, the skills, and the experience to eventually down the road start my own business, which was still my end goal at the time. But I realized like working for someone else can allow me to like learn the mistakes from inside of their business instead of making all the mistakes on my own. So I went into work for, basically first off, I learned the skill. I learned the actual skill of high ticket sales, found an actual business to go work for. And that's really when things clicked for me. And this is exactly when I made a decision that ended up completely changing my entire life. What I did is I invested the last money that I had saved up, that I had just gotten paid for my last agency deal that I closed, and put that money, I think it was about $5,000, that I poured all into getting my first mentorship to get into remote high ticket sales. I basically found a mentor, someone who was in high ticket sales, making over 10K a month, and I paid him to learn from him directly how to get into the space and how to land my first role. And I remember being on that call with him and literally having only that money, like that was all the money that I had to my name saved up, and being on the call, giving him my payment information to start that program. I was so scared. I was literally like shaking on that call. I gave him all kinds of excuses why I was gonna wait. I need to think about it. I need to push it off, which is kind of funny because now as a sales rep, I know how to handle these objections. But back then, I was so scared, so nervous, didn't know how to make a proper decision. Was giving all reasons to push it off. No, I don't have the money. I can't make it work. But that guy, he just helped me realize that if you want to get great results, you have to just make these uncomfortable, scared decisions, and that's how you end up moving forward as well. And also, if you want to become a good sales rep, a good closer, you need to be willing to be the type of prospect that you want to have, you know? You can't expect someone to make quick decisions if you're not willing to do that yourself. So on that call, I realized that that's how I needed to operate moving forward. So I actually stepped up. I took that step, and I was so scared. I remember going to sleep that same night, literally like freaking out, like what if this doesn't work out? What if I lost 5K of my personal money and I'm gonna be like broke? My parents are gonna throw me out of the house. Like so many of these like limiting beliefs and like thoughts that I had in my head, and just fear basically. But I committed, you know, because I invested everything I had to go all in. So I showed up, I worked extremely hard, and I was able to go from 0 to my first 10K a month, leave my parents' house, move halfway across the world from Sweden, from Stockholm to Colombia, get my apartment, live in a nice penthouse out there. And it just changed my life completely because I went all in, I committed. And it wasn't just like overnight success, you know, I had to work extremely hard, do stuff that I was extremely scared to do. But having that mentorship and having someone who can just like show me what to do, someone already been there, having that like one-on-one access to them, so powerful. Because what it gave me is it gave me extremely clear stuff to do every single day. I always knew what the next steps were to focus on. The challenge that I had before with the agency is a very complex business model to run. You know, it's a lot of different things you can do. When I got into sales and I had a mentor showing me what to do, I had so clear action steps. You know, I woke up every single day, I knew exactly what to do. If something was unclear, I could just like message the guy and like just ask him. And that allowed me to just have a clear path to follow, know exactly what to do every single day, and just focus on those inputs. And that's what allowed me to get results very, very quickly. You know, I was doing the agency for over 2 years, struggling to even get halfway to 10K a month in profit. Whereas with remote sales, I got there in 3 months through the mentorship, the guy that helped me, and also just me committing to the process and going all in with it, you know? And pretty crazy that the fact that I went from living in my parents' house in Sweden to literally having my own apartment at 20 years old in Medellin, Colombia, and making 10K a month. Then when I started getting more and more into high ticket sales and doing it for a long amount of time, I got some more valuable learning lessons. One thing that I realized was super, super crucial to go from me making just a couple of $1,000s my first month to getting into my first 10K was basically just like my energy, my conviction on my sales calls. A huge important thing is just being able to show up with conviction, be willing to challenge people. Because at the end of the day, what sales truly is just a transfer of belief from yourself to the prospect. So if you become certain, if you dial in your own life, basically just get on personal development, wake up on time, have good habits, things like that, that's when you become very good as a closer. You make a lot of money as well. So that's something that's changed in my life that allowed me to go from making 4K my first month to 10K in my third month, was basically like dialing in my life, waking up on time, holding promises to myself. That scaled my income very quickly. And that's now the point I've gotten to now, where a couple of years later, I've been in high ticket sales now for about 2.5 years. I've sold for over $3 million personally in this industry. And I've started helping other guys now get into this space and help them learn the skill, help them get into their first role and help them scale to their first 10K a month. So if you'd like help from me and see if I could help you get into remote IT sales for yourself, get freedom, you can apply to talk with me down below. We can have a conversation, see if you're a good fit for my one-on-one coaching, and see if I can help you out. Thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions, DM me on Instagram, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao.